we are back with this little gem. So what we're going to do, yeah, not ideal, we cut all that out. It's blooming cold. We're going to cut all that insulation off and replace that pipe, and we're going to upgrade it to 32mm, 1.25 inch, which is what it should have been in the first place. Get it nice and clipped and then go from there. Okay, little top tip, don't ever use these for anything, right? Just to clarify, 21.5mm standard overflow, yeah? Just about fit your finger in there. It's the absolute minimum flow rate it needs, obviously a bigger pipe. And you look at that and you think, oh yeah, that's not too bad, even though it's chock-a-block full of ice. But then look at the holes, look how small the hole is that they've drilled. It's never going to work. It's going to be blocking all the time, and the problem is with condense blocks is that they then cause all sorts of issues in the boiler, because what happens is basically the combustion chamber fills up with water. It's so cold. Combustion chamber fills up with water and then basically rots out the inside of the boiler. So the other thing I'm going to do once I've done this today is I will make some time, I'll get in there, get that combustion chamber open and have a look at what damage has been done. Just because the boiler doesn't lock out does not mean that there's not an issue, okay? So anybody who thinks it's still okay to put 2.5mm on the outside of a building, they're kidding themselves. Just do it properly. And we're done. That took longer than I wanted it to. It's still bloody cold. So, wherever it is, over there, 1.25 inch, all the way down and along and then back in. The reason I've used a compression tee down there rather than a solvent weld is purely because the outside of the pipe is so gross. I tried cleaning it off, but it wasn't really happening. So just throw a compression on, the rest of it's all solvent weld. Other little tip, I don't know if we'll be able to see it now because of the light. I don't know if you can see that, but I've put a little piece of copper in here. Alright, both screws. Just a cheeky little way to space it away from the wall. Looks quite clean. I could have buried this more into the wall, but with Pebble Dash, you're never going to get a clean line or a clean finish. So that's that all done. On to the next. Hi guys, welcome to Top Tips from the Top. Today we're talking waste pipes, how to cut them, how to fit them, and everything you should need to know from a DIY point of view. I'm going to try and make this a regular feature for people who are maybe new to the game, or people who are stuck and need just a quick fix. Today we are talking about waste pipe. So effectively there are three main sizes of waste pipe. 32mm, which is what I've got here, which is also 1.25 inch, or 40mm, which is 1.5 inch, and then the third size is overflow, which you've just seen in the other part of the video. which you would also have coming out of your loft if you had a tank in your loft, then 21.5 mil is what it is. I'm going to go through how to cut it. I'm going to go through how to join it, all the different major ways that we do it. So first things first, let's talk about fittings. This is what they call solvent weld. Okay, so what that is it's basically glued with a little pot of glue like that, which I will show you how to do in a second. That is the main way of doing it. I would say as a plumber, well over 90% of what I do waste pipe wise is solvent weld. The second is compression, which I will go through with you as well, which has its uses. I think, like I said in that video, you know, the outside diameter of the pipe can't be cleaned, or potentially it's a bit wet and you can't dry it, then that's going to get you out of trouble. So on that, what I'm going to do is talk you through how to cut the pipe. Now, you've got a few different options. Pretty much anything will cut it, to be honest with you. Any kind of saw, hacksaws work really well. What I've got here is effectively a hacksaw blade. This is made by Milwaukee, but it's also a stab saw, so I can put all sorts of different types of blades in this, which is why I use this. I do have a hacksaw, but I use it very rarely, especially now that I've bought this, which is also made by Milwaukee. Again, all it is effectively an electric hacksaw, let's call it that. So you can pop a blade in. These are the same blades that go in my hand saw version, and then it literally just goes back and forth like that. But if you watch how easily it cuts it, done. Now granted, that's not going to be overly clean cut, but if you're tight on space, run it up against a wall, that's going to get you out of trouble. But that saw does nothing that doesn't do, it just does it faster. The other option is one of these. This is made by Rothenberg, but there are a few different companies that do them, and it basically inside is just a sharp blade. Clips over the pipe like that, and then you just twist, and it's got little graded steps. I don't know if you'll see that, but effectively as you go through a step, as long as you keep squeezing it, it will then tighten up again like that, and keep going, and that gives you a really nice clean cut. But to use that, you need access around the whole pipe, and this one does both 1.25 inches up there and 1.5 inches there, or 32 and 40. But good little tool, good little piece of kit, really inexpensive, but it will give you a really nice clean cut, and it also keeps the cut square. The risk with this is that you end up cutting at an angle. Now, it's not the end of the world, within reason. So yeah, that's how we cut it. Right, I'm going to walk you through a solvent weld. So all I've got here is my pipe, fitting, and it just screws on like that, it just pushes on. Now, one thing that is always worth doing, especially if you've got a whole series of them that you're trying to glue up, is dry fit it first. So put the fitting on, make a little mark, so that you know that when you glue it, that's where the fitting needs to go to. Yeah. The other thing that you can do is take a mark like that. Okay. Now what that's going to allow me to do, especially with an elbow, is that I can glue out of situ and then put it in and do the final glue up, which is going to be really helpful when you've got lots of fittings going under a sink, for example, and space is a bit tight. So now I can take that off, glue it up, and then I know that once I've got it glued, that's where I need to set it to. Okay, so pot of glue, okay, glue, right. Now this is going to get in your fingers, but it doesn't matter, it peels off later. So all we're going to do is take the little brush, we're going to run it around the pipe, and then likewise again on the inside of the fitting. And it's important that you glue both sides. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is stick her in, twist So twisting helps it make sure that you get a really good covering of that glue, and then all I'm doing is just lining it up to that mark where I knew it needed to be. Yeah? Wipe off the excess. Don't need to do that, but it helps to make it look a bit tidier. Yeah? And that's that. In about 30 seconds, that will be watertight. So that means you've got about 30 seconds. If you've done it wrong, get it off quick. Because once these go off, what you've actually done is chemically welded these two together. So literally they're melting each part, welding themselves together, and then setting. And so already I can't really turn that. Yeah? So that's good. This is a permanent fixing. So once these have all gone off, you're not going to be able to get them off. You're going to have to cut them out. Okay. Second thing, compression. This is a compression coupling, and each compression fitting composes of 3 parts. So you've got the actual body, or the valve, or the body of the fitting. You have the rubber O-ring. Okay. Notice that it's tapered. Okay. So I'll walk you through that in a second. You have a securing washer, and then you have a nut. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just on the other end of this pipe, I'm going to show you the order. So nut first, then securing washer. Right, tapered washer, yeah? So you want this pointing, effectively pointing into the fitting, yeah? So this is our nut and our securing washer. This is going to go on that way round, and it just folds over the fitting, over the pipe, sorry, like that, and then the fitting will come down. Okay, now what I've done is I've pushed that down. If you've pushed this too far, don't worry, yeah, because all you're going to do is just slide it up so that it meets. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but do you see how that's where that taper comes in? Yeah, so it's actually slotting in. And then what's going to happen with this securing washer and the nut, is it's going to squeeze that. So as this pulls in, because it's tapered, it's going to squeeze that rubber up, and you're going to end up with a watertight fitting. Now, pros and cons to this. Pros are it's removable. Yeah, so for access or to unblock or anything like that, you can take this off. Okay, I've not put grips on that. I've not put a spanner on it. Just hand tight is ample. Okay, because all you're doing is just squeezing that rubber washer in. Food for thought though, do not put too much strain on these in terms of vertical strain. So if you've got this, say you've got this like that, don't have too much weight down here unsupported, okay? Because if you really want to, and over time, it will come off, yeah? Now yes, you can just undo it and do it back up again, but just be aware, clipping with waste pipes is really important. Not just to make sure you've got your drop, but also to make sure things like this don't come apart, yeah? So that is compression fittings, really, really key. Nut and securing washer, then your rubber washer with your taper going towards the fitting. Do that, you can't really go too far wrong. Like I said, it has its pros and cons, but we do most of what we do is solvent weld. So the third and final type of waste pipe fitting, or certainly common types, is push fit. I don't use it. I don't know any plumber that does, but for a DIY, maybe you like the idea of that. And it basically is just a standard O-ring encased in the fitting, and then the pipe slips into it. Yeah, a little bit of lubricant is going to help you out, but because of that, clipping is even more important, because if you've lubricated that fitting to get in, there's nothing to stop that lubrication causing that fitting to fall apart. Make sure you clip. They are so cheap, and they really will get you out of trouble. Okay, one thing to bear in mind with push fit pipe. This is standard 32mm, 1.25 inch. This will work with solvent weld and it will work with compression, but it will not work with push fit. It's a slightly different size. I'm pretty sure the internal diameter is the same, but the external diameter is different, something like that. So just be aware of that. If you have decided to do a project or you want to replace some pipe and you've decided to do it with push fit, make sure you buy push fit pipe or push fit 32mm pipe, whatever it is. It's also a really good idea to try and keep the same manufacturer. So if you have got polypipe fittings, buy polypipe pipe. It's just going to make your life easier. I will occasionally, I'll come across a fitting and it'll be too tight to get in. I know it will go, but sometimes it's a little bit tight. So if you're not happy and confident in doing that, just get the same pipe for the same fittings. None of this stuff is expensive. It's really not. And if you get all in the same manufacturer, it's going to make your life a lot easier. That is waste pipe fittings. So if you ever get into trouble, a solvent well fitting is highly unlikely to leak if it's done right. I've had fittings like this underfloor for 10 years. It's never going to be a problem. Compression, on the other hand, will. Any sort of wiggle like this, any sort of movement, any sort of tension you're putting on that, eventually it's going to wiggle itself loose. I think that's pretty much the basics of it covered. So if you have any questions, let me know. Quite happy to answer any comments or DMs or anything like that. So hope you found that helpful, and I'll catch you in the next DIY video.